Well, good day, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to do a little bit of mail time today. It's kind of fun opening up new packages. I have this big package here from down in central New Mexico, Carrizozo, New Mexico. That's right, the community of Carrizozo, which was the first downwind community. That's right. And we have a little letter from our friend Javier in Jurupa Valley, California. It's always great hearing from Javier. And then we have some special little kind of mail-oriented little craftiness we're going to get into afterwards. So stay tuned, please. Okay, let's get this package opened up, shall we? Yes, let's do it. Okay, and the envelope, please. Looks like I'm not opening the envelope very easily. Ah, yes, here we go. Well, this is from Joe from the little town of Carrizozo, New Mexico, and he's giving me a couple sheets of this red graphite tracing paper. And his idea is here, which I think is really interesting, is to use this with, if you have an all black or solid color ribbon, but you'd still like to, on occasion, do red highlights on your typing. And he's suggesting here on the second page some little helpful notes. Just slip the paper under the paper bale, insert it between the vibrator and the work paper, and you can type directly upon your work paper that you've been typing on with the normally a single color ribbon. And based on the color of the paper, like bright white paper, it probably shows up a little bit better than an off-white like this cream colored paper. And you may or may not have to double strike the letters depending on how dark it becomes. But it's a really cool idea. I'll read the rest of this later. So let's take a look at this, shall we? So we have a protective sheet here. And we have two sheets of this red graphite paper. Now, as I touch it in my hands, it feels, both of them feel similar, but this feels here and looks like just solid red paper. And the other side feels slightly waxier, let's say. And there's a slight more modeling of kind of a light pattern in that. Well, obviously, there's only one way to see how this works. Let's get a typewriter up here and try it out, shall we? Okay, so I have some of this Mead multi-purpose paper, but it's like old-fashioned typing paper. So let's see what we can do. Let's just do a little bit of test typing with just the black ink here and on this single color ribbon. Underneath the paper bale, yep, and just underneath the ribbon vibrator area. Well, let's see how that works. Well, it makes an imprint for sure. It is a little faint on this machine. Let's do the ribbon color selector to the stencil position. That's what I'm trying to think of. Let's just try to retype that, shall we? It is definitely a better imprint than before. Yep. Okay, now it's possible that yours truly might have gotten the paper upside down or the wrong side of the paper. So let's just feed this in here and try typing on the other side just to make sure I'm not doing this wrong. Okay. So on the bottom here is where I just typed, and you can see how the red graphite comes off against the typing on the back side. This was with the upper position of the ribbon. This was in stencil mode, and it looks like it transfers the color about equally well, regardless if you're in stencil mode or non-stencil mode, from what I can tell. And then looking at the original typing I did here on this side, the reverse position kind of looks like it maybe doesn't quite transfer the color quite as well. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this more mottled surface is probably what you want to keep on the front side, and this more solid surface is what you want to keep against your paper to get a better transfer. So let's try this again, but let's try double typing a word or a sentence. Okay, let's just do this in all caps, shall we? Double typing, period. Now, let's back up the carriage and let's move the paper a little bit. And type over the same part. Oh yeah, that's not too bad. Here you can see the double typing is definitely darker than single typing with the red graphite paper. Now, of course, one of the limitations of using an entire sheet like this is when you feed the graphite paper underneath here, you can only feed it so far. You only have so much room down here to feed it. So I think what would be helpful is if you cut this into strips. And you'd probably want to do this with a paper trimmer just to be a little neater about it, but I'm just going to briefly cut out some of this with the old scissors. Just a couple strips off of here. You can make your own pack of kind of like, not correction tabs, but, you know, highlighting tabs. Let's just cut it in half. And you may not want to necessarily type an entire line, paper width, but you got 2 half-width pieces of the graphite paper. Let's see how that works. And then we take our highlighting tab and we're going to just type the word red. Capital red. Let's see how that looks. Oh yeah, try to retype that. All right. Not too bad. It is red for sure, and it's redder than the other part is. Okay, let's just, for the sake of testing this, let's repeat the word red, this time flipped around. We've already done this test once before, but I'm still curious. And here you can see that if you type against the dark side and have the fainter side toward the paper, it does not make as dark of an imprint for sure. So yeah, you for sure want to have the darker, more even red side against the paper here. So yeah, that looks pretty good. You know, you can cut these little strips however long you need them. I think if you're just highlighting a few words in red or even underlining, you probably don't need a full paper's width strip of paper. I think just having half-size strips makes it a lot more convenient to carry around with you. Okay, this next letter is from Javier, our friend from Jurupa Valley, California. He wrote me a great letter. I just opened it off camera. I sliced it on the side of the letter here with a regular pair of scissors. But I was thinking about this the other day. If you take one of these pinking shears or whatever, the kind of scissors that does this little mottled edge, when you open a letter like that, let's say, you not only make a mess, but it becomes a lot easier to open the envelope. When you blow into it, these little serrations are a lot easier. I guess it catches the air or something. And also, when you're looking at the envelope, you can immediately tell what side is open. Oh, looky here. So what we have, he's very creative, yes. We have a one-type dollar. In typewriters, we trust typing ribbon. This is typing money, and of course, the President of the Treasury. Yes, his signature. We appreciate that. United States of America, one typing dollar. I really appreciate that. That is so cool. Okay, we have a very cool letter here. Look at the Mickey Mouse stationery, the Disney and Goofy, the Disney stationery. So he goes on to write here, California has been very warm in the 90s, and asking how my channel's doing. His grandparents are going to come and visit him. And let's see, talking about the Cuban peso and the convertible peso and the US dollar. Then he goes on to ask what videos do I have planned to make. He thinks I should make more typewriter comparison videos. That's a very good idea. And he wants me to make a video comparing the Singer Electric with the Smith Corona Galaxy 12. That's a really great idea. And also a 4th of July typewriter video. Well, that's a fantastic idea. I need to think about how to do that. By the way, he's typing this letter on the Hermes Rocket. There you go, the Hermes Rocket typewriter that we gifted him. Well, great letter, fantastic. It's great to hear from you again, Javier. Hope you're doing well in school and everything. Thank you very much. Oh, I have to figure out how I'm going to spend this. Don't spend all your typewriter dollars in one place. That's my advice. Well, I wanted to share you a letter that I got a couple weeks ago from Michael Arau from Suquamish, Washington. And this is one of these letters that are folded up to be their own envelope. And he's using a wax seal to seal the envelope. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool because I've actually played around with wax seals in the past. In fact, I must show you my little wax seal kit that I've had for a long time. I think I bought this up in Portland maybe 15 or 20 years ago and haven't really used much of it except the red stuff and maybe a little bit of the silver and gold. The seal that I was using was a V for obviously Van Cleef. Now the thing about these wax seals, they're typically made of a heavy metal like brass or something, and one of the properties of the metal seals is that they absorb the heat from the molten wax and they quickly cool the wax down. That is why preferably you want a metal seal for doing the wax. But last week I was over at my friend Ethan's and we made some resin printed wax seals. This is like a plastic resin material. I've just hot glued them to some little blocks of wood just to make a little handle. And I thought that it would be fun to try our hand at this. So I think the first thing I need to do is to fold up an envelope in the way that we need to do it. And here we are. I have just a test sheet of paper from a week or two ago. This is on some rather thick, I think this is the 32-pound laser paper, and just some quick brown fox testing. So somebody is going to get a quick brown fox letter here, at least a test letter. So on a letter size sheet of paper, one of the ways you can do this is to fold the two ends up into the middle so they meet in the middle, okay? And you can just eyeball this. It's not really important that it's exactly in the middle, but you know, just get it as close as you can get. And then on one of the sides, fold it down about an inch or so, let's say, inch and a quarter maybe, right? And you probably want to do this on a harder surface than what I'm using and use a little folder so you can get a nice crisp edge. Then you're going to fold the other side up until it almost reaches the end here, the other side, just to leave yourself a little bit of room, maybe 1/8 of an inch or whatever, like that, okay? And then you can tuck the long end into the little flap on the short end. Hold your mouth just right. And if you've done it right, it will kind of lay flat. And now you have all four edges are sealed up, and the front side of the letter cannot be read, even from inside the side tucks. And now what we want to do is just seal up the envelope with a wax seal, right? So that's cool. And now I would advise, if you're going to melt the wax, don't use a cigar torch. Use a candle or use a little kind of a cigarette lighter that puts out a smaller flame, okay? Now, I do have also this other brand. This is a French brand of sealing wax. And here is a little stick of it that I've already been practicing with. Okay, so let's try this seal here, okay? And this is my little logo that I did last week at Ethan's, right? Little Joe VC sunglasses. Okay, the problem with these is that in comparison to the metal wax seals, the wax isn't going to cool down as quickly. And so you have to leave it in the wax longer for the wax to cool before you pull it off. The other problem is because this is resin printed plastic, it's closer to being like wax in terms of its surface properties, and so you have to wet this seal. You could use water. I'm licking it. Okay, well, sometimes we lick envelopes, so maybe it's not all that bad, but I'm going to just try my hand at it, and we'll see what happens here. It is helpful if you can seal up your envelope so the flap doesn't stick up as far. Otherwise, you can weight down the flap so it doesn't stick up. So let's see if I can do this without actually burning the camera lens. And so I'm going to just start dribbling some wax here in a little puddle. And I've noticed Ethan was figuring out a little technique for this. is you want to make a puddle and then you want to smear it out and flatten it a little bit before you actually stick the seal onto it. So while this wax is melted, you can make a larger puddle to kind of fit the size of the seal, okay? Like that. Let's try that. Put it off to the side. Now, we want to wet our seal, okay? And then we're going to squish it down in there. And we're going to let it sit there until it gets fairly hard. This, you can test it with your knife blade here, or you can actually test it on the other end here and see how it's coming along in terms of drying. Okay, it's starting to feel like it's a little bit setting up, and if it comes out, it's not perfect. We didn't spread it around quite as much on the edge up there. Not too bad. There's the Joe VC. Hey, it makes a little fun little wax seal. Hey, nice and sealed up, ready to address and stamp and deliver to the post office. It's also helpful at this time to try to clean off any of the excess wax off of your seal before it totally hardens up. You can use a thin plastic scraper or try to use your fingernail, or if you want to use like a knife blade or something, be gentle because this will scratch. I'm going to use a block of wood and try to just scrape off the excess wax before it gets too hard in there. And if you have any wax in the little fine details, you can just be very gingerly careful with your knife blade tip, and try to clean those out like that. All right. So I might want to point out that if you do wax sealing of envelopes and letters, you might have to go to the post office. At least here in the United States, you might have to go to the post office in person and get the letter hand canceled instead of just slipping it in the mailbox, because a lot of the letters are usually run through some kind of automated machine, and it might either crack the seal or they might reject it. So I'm not really sure, but you might want to consider doing that. And in the case of Michael Arau's letter that he sent, it came sealed up nicely. It wasn't broken or anything, so I'm not really sure if he did get it hand canceled or if he threw it in the mailbox. I'm not sure, but it came in good shape. Also, Ethan made this resin printed insignia ring with the same Joe VC logo as my wax seal stamp, so very unique, very one of a kind. Thank you, Ethan, very much. Well, that was a fun mail time, and I hope you guys also enjoyed the little bit of the wax envelope seals and making our own with resin printing. I enjoy the times I spend with Ethan. We have really a lot of fun craftiness, combining kind of analog with digital technology. Hope you guys are having fun too. Hope you're staying well and staying creative. And until next time, have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.